Hi everyone, welcome to the ELLE Beauty Weekender presented by Tata Click. I am Ruman Beg, ELLE's senior digital writer. Today we're in conversation with Nina Davuluri. She's a renowned actor, filmmaker, entrepreneur, activist. Hi Nina, thank you for joining us. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
So today you'll be creating a brunch look for us. You've learned makeup from Mario. We're very excited about that. Could you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, actually, so when I competed for Miss America, which feels like a lifetime ago now, um, uh, all the contestants have to do their own makeup, which a lot of people don't know. They think that we have this entire hair and makeup team, but we don't. We actually have to do it ourselves on the final night. And so prior to that, when I was Miss New York, I had a makeup lesson with Mario, who is the makeup artist for Kim Kardashian, as well as several other celebrities. And so he did a one-on-one private lesson with me, and that was really, truly how I really learned how to do makeup. Especially the biggest thing that he taught me was how to find shades that matched my skin tone, which was always really difficult for me. And so that was just life-changing to be able to do that. And so I've always been into beauty, but Mario just took it to the next level.
So you just said about it was difficult for you to find the shades that match your skin, and that somehow you also have a campaign that speaks about it. So it's a brown girl thing, I guess. So what led you to start that campaign, and how did you finally did that, and you
Right. So
started the campaign and
yeah.
figured it out?
Yeah. So my campaign is called #See My Complexion. That is actually one of the ones that I worked with Elle in the past. I believe your November issue. We had talked about that as well as the fashion industry, which was really great to be able to have that exposure and start this conversation that's so important. I got into it because I started producing a documentary called Complexion, which I'm excited to say will be out very soon. So stay tuned. And it's really about the skin light industry. I think colorism is something that I grew up with. Many of us have. And it's a question that I've asked myself, why does this exist? I remember the morning after I woke up, after I won Miss America, and there was an Indian newspaper that had said, is Miss America too dark to be Miss India? And I think this was kind of the conversation that I wanted to unpack, because we all hear comments like, don't go out in the sun, you're going to get too dark, or, oh, you'd be so much more beautiful if you were a few shades lighter. And I think colorism is a form of racism. And as we're finally in this reckoning, especially in the United States and several other countries around the world, I think skin whitening products are certainly contribute to this issue. Obviously, promoting this ideology that white skin is more successful, more beautiful, more elite. And also media and Bollywood, I think, also contribute to this conversation and this toxic, pervasive ideology. And so this is the start, and I'm so thankful for Elle to opening this conversation. And hopefully young girls will be able to see more people of all skin tones and darker skin tones, which I think is really important for representation.
Absolutely. I think that's a very common problem that we've all faced growing up. Don't go in the sun, and you'd look better if you were a few shades lighter, or just calling the complexion exotic and dusky, the word that doesn't go away. So I think, yeah, these are the problems we've all sort of faced growing up. So how did you venture into beauty initially? What grabbed your interest, and how was it like when you started venturing into it?
I've always been interested in beauty and makeup. I always played with my mom's lipstick, was that young girl who got into it. I also was really into fashion from a young age as well. And so I think, it was just something where I saw a way to express, I guess, different attitudes, different moods, different feelings. And then I think it took really a step further when I realized that there was underrepresentation in the beauty industry. I remember when I was 16, my mom took me to Bloomingdale's, and this was kind of the beauty beacon at the time, and still kind of is, to discover new beauty brands. And it was the first time that I was, she said, okay, you can buy a foundation, which is a big moment in beauty world. and so I was so excited. And I remember I ran to the Chanel counter, and I will never forget this. And I was ready to buy a foundation. I knew that that's what I wanted. And the lady at the counter looked at me and she said, I'm so sorry, we just don't have any shades in your skin tone. And this was a moment for me where I discovered that several brands are just leaving out an entire demographic, an entire population of people that are just left behind. And I think this was also ultimately a moment of this feeling of, you're not worthy. You're not worthy enough for us to create this product for you. And so that was something that stuck with me. And that was something, as I entered, kind of the beauty space or my advocacy work, was always at the forefront of how do we bring more representation to these standards of beauty, because everyone has a different standard of beauty. It's obviously very subjective, and we know that. But how do we actually turn this conversation into highlighting all shades of beauty?
When did you discover what brands work for you and how, and which are the ones that you now, and what are the little tips and tricks that sort of helped you navigate your way through it?
Yeah, a lot of trial and error. I mean, I didn't have YouTube when I was growing up, which is crazy to think about. Obviously YouTube came more in my teenage years, I would say, but it was not the beauty mecca it is kind of now, where you can just go and find a tutorial and find someone, that looks like you. Hopefully there's more people, and kind of buy products that way, or kind of figure out what shade might work for you. And so it was just a lot of trial and error. I will say I did find a home, is what I like to call it, with L'Oreal. The shade N7 was my first foundation that I ever really used. And I still use it. It's one of my favorites today. But, I think there certainly were brands. Also, MAC was one where I found a lot of products that worked for my skin type, but these were not the norm. It isn't what it is today. Like Fenty Beauty, where 40 shades, this was 3 or 4 years ago, was now considered the norm and is held to a certain standard. But I think also, just not in this conversation of beauty, I think for me, I wanted to get to the core of why we think being fair is considered more beautiful. Why is that even happening in our homes from the time that we're young? Because even as simple as, oh, this color, don't wear bright colors because it makes you look too dark, is something that I heard, and many people I heard, even when I was filming the documentary, had shared these stories with me. And so understanding that question, why do we do this to ourselves and our children and the next generation, was really important. And I think with skin whitening products was something that I saw an industry that was also promoting this. And so last year, when this conversation of Black Lives Matter was happening, which is still happening and incredibly important, and we're not yet where we need to go, a lot of companies were announcing that Black Lives Matter and that they are, working towards diversity and inclusion and having this conversation. But in other parts of the world, they were saying they were still selling skin whitening creams. Unilever, one of them, Fair and Lovely, is probably one of the biggest that I grew up seeing. And so the campaign See My Complexion started as a campaign targeting the skin whitening companies to discontinue their products of skin whitening creams. And the documentary obviously was also about bringing awareness to this as well. And so to see, skin whitening companies like Unilever rebrand Fair and Lovely to Glow and Lovely, I think is a step. Do I think they're doing it well? No, I think the conversation and the product they're selling is still the same ideology, regardless of what they call it. So I do still think that there is significant work to be done in that industry. One of the other companies, L'Oreal, that I mentioned, through my work, they have also rebranded to discontinue the use of Fair White and Light. And they have invited me to sit on the diversity and inclusion board. And so I think those, in terms when we talk about how do we create impactful change, for me, it was always being in that room, being in that circle of the decision makers who are discussing these topics of of what is inclusive. What does, you know, promoting the skin whitening cream mean to that young girl in India, or in other countries, Africa and Asia, around the world? And even here, how's that affecting us? And when we're moving towards the shift in the beauty industry of inclusivity, these are important conversations where people of all ethnicities, all shades, all colors, all backgrounds need to have the seat at this table and be a part of this conversation. And so my work with that has led to being a part of L'Oreal, which is really exciting to see changes happen. So I always say, if anyone has ideas, please send them, reach out, send them my way. And I'd love to discuss more.
So you just spoke about your documentary. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, so I started producing Complexion almost 3 years ago now. I think everyone thinks you set out to make a documentary and it's kind of done in a year. It is not. So this was something that I knew just based on my travels and conversations. It was always a topic that came up, especially within South Asian circles, but also more so it extended to almost every community of color is what I found. It wasn't just South Asians, it was East Asians, Africans, Hispanics, Latinas, these communities were affected by this ideology. And so when we set out to film Complexion, originally, you know, we knew we wanted to tell this story across all cultures. And so we started with India, and then we are currently, obviously we had to hold for a little bit, but our plan is to continue to film in other parts of the world, in Africa, East Asia, and share stories about how colorism affects every community, because I think it certainly does, but the way it manifests is also different. So telling those true human stories. So in the India chapter, you will see a lot of young people sharing their stories, a lot of different, people from different backgrounds and socioeconomic status, which was really important to highlight that this issue affects every single person, males, females, and across all different spaces and across all of India. And so being able to tell those stories in a human way was really important. So do you want me to just start walking you through?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to know from the start in detail.
Okay, great. So before we got on, I just moisturized my skin. I think one of the other big things that Mario taught me was to use a great moisturizer because your skin is your palette. So I use the Kiehl's. It is the Ultra Facial Moisturizer. This is actually the one he used on me. So I've been using it for almost 5 years. I love it. And then for summer, since it's summer here, and it's probably 90s in New York City, 90 degrees Fahrenheit, sorry, in New York City. So it's definitely hot, probably not as hot as it gets there. But I always wear a sunscreen, and I really like Supergoop, this is their glow screen. And I like it because it's a sunscreen, it's like a 2-in-1, duo products are great, but I also just kind of put it where I want a little more kind of glow, I would say, which is on my cheeks, and then I'll take a little down to my chin and forehead. But I leave out my nose because I tend to be a little more oily there. So I kind of leave that out for the glow screen. So I wanted to share a little bit about foundation for a few of my darker skin girls. There's a couple that I really use, but I think with foundation, you kind of want to go with, I would say my skin tone has a few more yellows. So if you have yellows or reds, I would reach for a shade that kind of has more of either yellow or red, depending on your skin. So since I have a little more yellow, the two that work for me, I mentioned L'Oreal, but recently I started trying out this Marc Jacobs Extra Shot. And this is a concealer and foundation, which is really nice. And so I like using it just a little under my eyes for concealer, because this also has caffeine in it. So it kind of wakes up your eyes if you didn't get enough sleep or if you have a little puffiness. This is really nice for that. The other one that I love, 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 and also use is Hourglass. This is probably my holy grail. Like, I think this is probably my 5th or 6th stick. My shade is Golden Amber. And this is an easy one. I also like it because it's a stick, it's not a liquid, so it's just a little easier to work with. And I kind of put this all around, You want to make sure you get the top of your eyelids too. I know this looks crazy, but believe me, it's going to work. And then I just take a beauty blender and kind of blend everything in together. So I think the biggest thing with foundation is that you want one that matches. And then you can also take it a little down your neck because my neck is a little more yellow than my face. So then to blend it seamlessly is really important. I think that the thing I noticed, especially, you know, I grew up going back to India every summer. I noticed that a lot of times people would have mismatching neck and face because I think a lot of times they were buying products that were just too light or using, I think, talcum powder too, which I've definitely, I mean, you would put it on, I think. I remember doing that when I was like really young in 3rd grade or something. And so don't do that as like the rule of makeup. Do not do that. Find something that matches seamlessly. Otherwise you're literally there's no reason to cover up and like feel the need to use a shade that's lighter than you are. So this is kind of how I do my base. I like a really light base-ish for summer especially. And then I go in with my contour stick. This is a brand called Mented. It's actually a brand that is made for women of color, by women of color, which I really love. So I just take a couple shades darker, and you can see I'm just putting it right above my cheekbones. You don't put it on the hollows, you put it a little above because that gives you a really nice carve out. And you just take that and blend it. And also I do like a little bit on my nose. And just kind of make sure it all goes together. Also for summer, I think it's nice when you do a lighter look. The other thing, next I'm taking this Armani. I've literally used all of it. This is one of my favorites, but this is also a powder that I use, and I use it to kind of set the cream. So every time you use cream, you want to be sure to set it, especially in the summer. Otherwise, if you don't use the powder to kind of set the cream, it'll start to kind of melt off your face, which you don't want. You want it to stay, especially in the heat. And then I just take it down a little on my jawline. This carves out like a nice line. So I have a few things for eyes, but actually let me finish my concealer quickly. So I feel like the base is probably the most important right now. So for concealer, you want to do 2 shades. So you obviously want to pick a little lighter shade just for the fact that you want your eyes to pop out, to bring it out. So everything lighter will also help highlight the contour. So it'll bring a lot of dimension and structure to your face. So I start with a lighter kind of shade. I also use one that's a little, I would say has a little red in it. This is a brand, it's called Derma Blend. I think they actually, it's kind of one of those professional ones that Mario had introduced me to. So I don't know how accessible it is, but you can find it. I know you can find it in New York for people here. So you just do a little bit, a tiny bit goes a long way. And you want to highlight right here and make a small little triangle. You don't need to bring it all the way down. That's not necessary. And then once you have this, you want to go over it. So this is the trick. You want to go over it with a liquid. So I used a cream concealer, and then I'm going to go over it with this liquid. And this is Makeup Forever. And this is a shade darker, probably 1 shade darker than this cream concealer. And you can see as I'm already putting it on, it kind of pulls out and brightens my entire eye. And you're honestly just going to do a tiny, tiny bit. You don't need a lot. And then you take your beauty blender. This is like so clutch. I think everyone has seen it by now at this point, but it really does work, especially for this. You also want to make sure you wet the sponge when you're using it. And then what this does is it also kind of, it takes a little bit of the product off, so your face and your makeup just looks a lot more natural and blends a lot easier. I think as you can kind of see that this is a nice a nice finish that is coming together well, but not like too much, hopefully. Let's see. What kind of season is it there? Roman, what's the temperature like? Is it wedding season?
Monsoon and it's raining like crazy, and yeah, it's super gloomy, and but it's always hot in Bombay.
Okay. So I am gonna do a brunch look. And I just want to do something really simple because I feel like, you know, before there was a lot of, in my pageant days, I guess, you're wearing like a full face of makeup and eyelashes, and I've obviously gravitated away from that. So I just kind of really like easy, quick, and simple. This is an eyeshadow liquid. It's from Wander Beauty that I really like because you just easily pop this on. It gives me a nice little glow that I don't have to worry too much about blending. And I also love using golds. I mean, golds are just classic on our skin tone. Like, it's amazing on us, which is nice. And so I'm just gonna leave that. It dries down really quickly. And from there, I'm just gonna give a little more dimension because I wanna be able to see it. And I'm using Mented again. And I'm using a darker shade for my crease. And what this does is that it just gives you a little dimension, especially we're on camera, we're all on Zoom now. You want to be sure that people can like see your beautiful features. When you do shading and contouring, that's what really helps with this, especially on a camera. So I'm just going to do that. And then I think liner is also important. I always have done a cat eye since I was in middle school. I don't know if like that's an Indian thing, but since middle school, is it? Yeah.
I've been doing it since middle school and continue to do so.
Where did you learn it from? Did your mom do it, or did you see like your sisters or siblings?
I think I saw it, my cousins do it, and then I picked it up and I was sort of good with it.
Yeah, my mom always, I saw my mom do it. She wouldn't do it every day, but I noticed she did it in her like wedding pictures, and I would always look at their wedding album, and I thought it was so pretty, so I always kind of tried to do it. So I like a little flick. And you just take it up a little. People always ask what like a trick is for wing liner. I'm like, I think practice. When you've been doing it for 15 years, you get good and quick at it. And so then to kind of bring it all together, I'm using my favorite all-time eyelash or mascara. And this is L'Oreal Voluminous. And I have used this forever. It is amazing. I used to use the Dior mascara, and that was one, it's insanely expensive. And this does just as well, if not better, for a much lower cost. And so what I like to do is I actually take the wand above my eyelashes and curl it up. And that's what gives it a really nice lift and curl. I've never had to curl my lashes this way, when you just take the wand and kind of bring it up like that. Shake it out. So I typically, for a day look, I don't do my bottom lashes, or I don't do it too heavy because I think it tends to close off your eye. So I just do like a light coat, nothing super dramatic, just so you can tell. And then I add a little pop of blush. Always pretty for summer, or like a brunch when you're smiling. I feel like brunch is all about like cocktails, girl talk, like a great way, or you know, it's like just a great fun way to catch up with friends. So I feel like every time I'm outside and I see people brunching outdoors, everyone's always like laughing and having a great time. So it's nice to like highlight your cheeks. And finally, I'm just gonna do a little lips. This was really hard for me. I don't know if it's hard for you, but to find a nude lipstick,
It is. What's nude for others is not nude for this complexion, dear.
Absolutely. It's so different. And it's also dependent on like your lips are different from your face too. So it's just it was almost it was like a 5-year process to find a good nude lip. Have you found one yet that you like?
I think I have to mix a couple of them to find the right balance of what works. Something is too light, something is too dark. So I have to kind of mix a couple of them to get the right shade for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So the company I've been mentioning is called Mented. And like I said, they make products for women of color. And I know the founders, they're really great. They're actually some of my mentors. And they actually started creating a new lipstick for women of color. And this has changed my life because they have their classic shade ranges. And so I'm using their one, it's called Nude La La. And I always line my lips. And you can see this is like it's almost like a brownish nude, but not too, it still has like tones of pink in it.
Yeah.
So I think the other thing too is that you don't want something totally nude because then it just looks like you don't have anything there. It looks a little strange.
Yeah, it looks out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna line it in this and then I'm gonna use this Armani gloss. Actually, sorry, this is the Armani, it's matte. It's their matte velvet color. This one I really love. It's just probably the most creamy matte product I found, and it just sits so nicely on your lips. Like it doesn't feel like anything's there, which sounds crazy. But it's really, really nice. So yeah, I think I'm happy with that. It's like a little pinkish, but kind of nude. My last step, especially for summer or if you're gonna be outside, is I take a setting spray. This is the MAC Fix Plus, and this is the matte one. They have one that's like glowy. They have a couple different versions, but I'm using the matte. If you're oily or have, kind of wanna stay a little less oily, this is really helpful. I don't spray it all over because I do want my cheeks to glow. I want a little bit of glow, so I just pat this. I spray it on the Beauty Blender, and then I just pat this on the areas that I know get a little oily, and that kind of sets everything.
That's a different way of doing it.
Yeah, it's really helpful because you don't want the entire face to feel dry, which I feel like sometimes the matte sprays tend to do, or even if you're wearing matte makeup, it does that. So this is kind of those areas. And I think that's pretty much it. Sometimes I will say the last thing, this is the Fenty Beauty Universal Gloss Balm. I think this is universal. I really do. I think it looks really nice. So I feel like gloss is super in right now. And so I just do a little bit here and a little bit on top. And that makes your lips look a little more pouty and a little fuller too. So it's a little trick to kind of top everything off. So this is my brunch look.
It looks amazing. It looks so effortless. And
Thank you.
And perfect for a brunch, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would love to know kind of what your viewers and readers are looking for, or any new trends that you see that you're excited about.
I mean, this is super easy to recreate. And like you said, now people are not going for the full face makeup look. They're not interested in, putting the lashes, doing the hard contour lines that are super hard to blend, and, the white patches. The more natural, dewy look is in. And so I think, yeah, this perfectly sits well with what's been trending.
Awesome, yeah. And I mean, I love also pairing the bright, like a really bold, bright outfit, something like this color, obviously is neon, with a really simple face. I think also just takes it, it's very classic and it takes it elevated, but it still keeps it young and fun. So I feel like you could be like a brunch. I could go to brunch with my parents wearing this, my aunties and uncles, but I would also feel comfortable with my friends too, which is really nice.
Yeah, it is the kind of look that sort of goes with everything and with every outfit. It kind of just complements it.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and hopefully you learned a few tips and tricks for your brunch looks or even Zoom looks, or and a few camera tricks as well.
Definitely, I sort of learned a couple of tricks from you, and the way you layered your concealer or did your setting spray, or how you used your contour stick and where exactly do you line it. I mean, those are the little things, and I think everybody does it, but everybody has their personalized way of doing it, which makes it kind of different. And that was the sort of takeaway I had. So it was lovely, and you look so beautiful right now. You could actually go for brunch with this.
Yay, thank you. I actually tried to only use I used less than, I think I only used under 10 products, so not a ton. And I feel like you could cut out some too. So hopefully this is one you can recreate at home.
I think, yeah, the lesser the product, the easier it is to recreate, which for the viewers is the best thing, is showing a look with lesser products.
Okay.
Thank you so much. You look lovely right now.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And if you guys want to, keep up with complexion, share your stories and conversation, I'm always open to that. You can share them with me on all my pages at Nina Davuluri. And thank you so much to Elle for just having this conversation. I know a lot of young women really need to hear it. And so I think the change starts with us. And so I really appreciate all of you guys joining me in this.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you for doing this.